This segment brought to you by our good friends at America First Policies, the #1 political action committee in America, fighting for President Trump's America First agenda. And by the way, President Trump has nominated Judge Brett Kavanaugh to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, Judge Kavanaugh, I got to tell you, is one of the most qualified U.S. Supreme Court nominees ever to come before the Senate, ever. Now, he served with distinction as a federal judge for over a decade. His credentials, everybody knows what they are. They're solid. Judge Kavanaugh has proven himself to be smart, fair, and a true conservative. As a Supreme Court justice, Brett Kavanaugh will protect our First Amendment rights to free speech and religious liberty. He'll defend our Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms. He'll uphold our Constitution as written by the Founding Fathers. Judge Kavanaugh has the right qualifications to serve on the Supreme Court. Now it's up to the Senate to confirm him. Call your senators today. Pick up the phone. It dials out 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. Tell them you want them to confirm Justice Kavanaugh for the Supreme Court. For more information, go to americafirstpolicies.org. That's americafirstpolicies.org. This message has been paid for and authorized by America First Policies Incorporated. Joining us now, Corey Lewandowski, former campaign manager for the Trump campaign. And now, after organizing that big win, Corey is a senior advisor with the Vice President's Political Action Committee, the what we call the Hard Money PAC, and we'll be talking a little bit about that. But first, Corey, let's get to baseball. I got to do baseball. The Red Sox with a 10-game lead. Does this team ever lose?
Well, I'll tell you, John, they have been on an amazing streak. Watching the Red Sox play this year has been really something fun. I don't know if you saw it, but I think they won like 81 games. For the first 81 games, they had the best record or one of the best records ever. And I looked at the analysis, and the teams that have had a similar record as the Red Sox had through the first half of the season, like 9 out of 12 have gone on to win the World Series. So hopefully it's a precursor of what's to come.
Well, right now they're 85-35, a phenomenal 50 games over 500. They have a 10-game lead over the Yankees. My Astros, meantime, everybody's hurt, and so we're kind of hanging on here till our players get back. But right now, if everything ended right now, the Astros were to beat the winner of the wild card game, they would square off yet once again in Boston. So now, of course, we went last time because we're going to have to go again, even though it's, for me, hostile territory, right? That's going to be a great series.
John, once you make the play, once the playoffs come, it's all a different, literally a different ball game. Everything starts all over again. Teams get hot in those playoffs. You can win on a streak, you can lose on a streak.
Yep.
Injuries, and so look, the regular season is important to make it there, and the Red Sox are playing great, and I'm proud to be a season ticket holder there. But I have been through many, 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 many years, like other Red Sox fans, where we didn't win for a long time.
I tell you, though, after the second game, and I have to tell our listeners that Corey Lewandowski promised me that if the Astros got there, that he would give my son Jojo and I 2 of his season tickets. So we went to both games. And after the second game, we were so exhausted because the Boston fans, they yell in those playoff games on every pitch, not like play, pitch. And so after 2 games, my 13-year-old at the time, he's a year older now, I'm like, well, you want to go to the third game in New York, whatever. And he said, Dad, I just can't take another game. I am physically exhausted from this because it is hostile territory if you're an Astro fan, no doubt. All right, meantime, Omarosa. You know her. I mean, you were in Trump Tower with her. What is the deal here, Corey?
John, I have to tell you, this goes under the category of being very disappointed in people who've had opportunities to work for the Trump administration, the Trump campaign, the Trump transition team, and then squander those opportunities. This president found me and gave me an opportunity to run the campaign, and I brought so many other people onto that campaign who wouldn't have had an opportunity under a traditional Republican campaign to work because we weren't the elites, we weren't the establishment, we weren't the people that went to all the Ivy League schools, that weren't accepted in Washington, D.C. as the political elites. And we all came together to do something which we thought was special for the country, and Omarosa was part of that. And then she had the privilege, and I mean that, to go to the White House and serve as an assistant to the president, an opportunity so few people have, and then to see what she has done to make accusations against the president. We're now learning that she's been terminated for, it seems to be, some serious ethical issues as it relates to using government property when she wasn't supposed to. You talk to the people who she has worked with there in the building, and I didn't work in the building with Omarosa, but I can tell you the people that she did talk to, they said it was a hostile work environment. I mean, I remember the stories early on where she took over Anthony Scaramucci's office and threw his stuff out in the hallway and said, "This is my office now." So obviously a very difficult person to work with, but more importantly, making false accusations, saying things that are completely unfounded, that really hurts her reputation. What she says in the book and what she has said in the interviews have contradicted themselves. There is no tape of this N-word that supposedly she has heard secondhand. She has now spoken to many people, including Lynn Patton, who was her closest friend on the campaign and is a senior government official in the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And Lynn just put out a statement just in the last hour or so recanting her, remembering her conversation with Omarosa on the day she was fired. And it's very clear Omarosa is doing this just to gain additional information and credibility, which she has none, to sell books. And we've now seen this as a pattern of people who come on, they make false statements in their books, and then they try and cash in on their tenure with the president or the Trump campaign, and it's shameful.
You know, it really is. And the comments you made earlier about the number of people that you gave opportunities to get involved in the Trump campaign that would have never had an opportunity to work in a campaign. I'm one of those people. I mean, you gave a tremendous opportunity for me, first letting me be vice chairman of Virginia and then chairman when things went down with Mr. Stewart. I mean, I would have never had that opportunity in any other campaign but the Trump campaign. And I'm just one of example, Corey, of many people that you gave opportunities to that just would never in their life have even dreamed it. And then, you know, to go like her and squander the whole thing for what? For money or fame, or I don't know what she's doing, but it's kind of gross.
Well, John, it really is. And look, I'll tell you, because, you know, I've told this story many times. I wrote about it in the book. You know, I grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts, not rich, not wealthy, single-parent family, worked hard. And Donald Trump took a chance hiring me to go and run a campaign where many people didn't think we could be successful. Mm-hmm. And we outworked everybody. But that was a chance and an opportunity that I am so grateful for. And, you know, you don't see me out bashing Donald Trump. I left the campaign because of Paul Manafort, and, you know, Paul's going to have his day in court now, and he'll have to rectify whatever wrongs that he made. But look, I'm not bitter. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I think Omarosa and others who've had such an amazing chance to serve our country in these high capacities should be thankful and not so angry about everything. And look, people leave the building all the time, but it doesn't mean you just go make up stories. And this is, you know, the second or third book now that's come out from people who are either talking to authors or have made up stories that we know to be factually inaccurate from coming outside the White House. And I hope it gets better, because this is just unacceptable. Well,
now we've got another book coming out by Bob Woodward, kind of like, I guess, an updated version of Michael Wolff's book. And what is astounding to me is people that are in the West Wing serving the administration. I mean, they applied for the job. They wanted to go in there, I guess, for whatever reason, and they would turn around and go off the record and leak stuff and talk bad about the president to authors in order to trash the president to come out with a book. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you take the job and go and serve? I mean, you're working for the federal government, so you're in the West Wing, ostensibly took the job to serve the president's agenda, right? Otherwise, why would you be there? And then you turn around.
Exactly right.
And you
John, you're so right. And they do it under these anonymous sources. Anonymous source this, anonymous source that. Look, if you want to go out and you want to be what Anthony Scaramucci says, which is a front stabber, then just tell people, yes, I said this, but that's not what happens. You know, the staff comes out, they say things anonymously, they record things when they shouldn't, you know, and then they try and profiteer off of it. I think it's wrong. Look, I can tell you the Bob Woodward book, I don't know anything about it. I never spoke to Bob about the book. He never contacted me about the book. But if he did, I would have been happy to go on the record. I've been happy to have a conversation on the record, because reporters will tell you, you know, when I speak to them, if I speak to them, I say, I want to make sure that you're using my name. It's very important for me, so they know what my position is on things, because I don't like these anonymous source stories which aren't validated, and many of them are still coming from inside the White House, and they're detrimental not just to this president, but to the entire administration and the country.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We're with Corey Lewandowski, former campaign manager for the Donald Trump for President campaign. He's the guy that orchestrated that. He's also the author of one of the best books written on the campaign called Let Trump Be Trump. Let Trump Be Trump. You get that at your favorite bookstore or Amazon or wherever you want to go. Let Trump Be Trump. But he's got a new book coming out, rumor has it, called Trump's Enemies from Within. Can you give us a little preview here, Corey, on what this book might look like?
Well, John, I'll tell you, you know me well enough, and I think your listeners know me. I'm a guy who's just going to tell the truth, and I'm going to outline in this book, Trump's Enemies Within, the people who not only were brought into the administration who shouldn't have been through bad hiring decisions, who were detrimental to his administration, okay? Also, those people who never supported him, who came into the administration and had worked against him. Some are still in the building. Most have now left, luckily. But also the career bureaucrats, the people not just at the FBI and the Department of Justice who've been under the spotlight, the Peter Schrock's of the world, the Lisa Pages of the world, not just those individuals, the Jim Comeys that everyone knows, but there are many, many others in the bureaucracy who, when cabinet officials come in and they try and implement the Trump agenda, whether it's Ryan Zinke at the Interior Department or Elaine Chao at Transportation or Linda McMahon at the Small Business Administration, whatever it may be, they come in and they are just up against the unelected, unappointed bureaucrats who hold over, who are left-leaning liberals who don't want to see the Trump agenda move forward. I am going to name names of the individuals who are Trump's enemies from within his own administration, and I will also outline how impressive it has been of the success that he's been able to achieve with all of these enemies already in place. And if just for a moment we actually had a team that was cohesive and working together, how much more the Trump administration could be getting done. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this book.
So you're actually going to out people that are in the West Wing now?
Either have been or continue to be in the building. You bet I am, John.
Do you have any hesitation about doing this? Because, once you do this, Corey, you're going to be blacklisted by a lot of people.
Hey, look, John, my life is about is I gave up 3 years of my life, 3 years of my children who were young to go and run a campaign for president for someone who I believe in because I think they are the best for the country. And sometimes that person is so busy that he doesn't have the opportunity to see the people who had surrounded him through no fault of his own, through hiring decisions that were made that he wasn't part of, who don't work on his agenda, who when he gives them a directive to accomplish something, they simply just say, yeah, I don't feel like doing it. To me, that's completely unacceptable. It shouldn't be allowed, and I am going to tell people, I'm going to remind everybody who those individuals were. Some of them, many of them, worked right in the West Wing, and they worked in the West Wing at the detriment of this president. They stopped his agenda from going forward. And the amazing things that he's been able to accomplish in the last almost 2 years would only be superseded if he actually had a team that was there helping him every day and not battling his own team when he asked them to accomplish things and they just flat out refused. There are members who were part of the deep state that were sitting there in senior capacities in that West Wing, in those Oval Office meetings where the president was asking for specific things to be fixed, whether it's for coal miners or steel workers or of the aluminum industry or so many different things. And the staff just said, yeah, we're not going to do that. We don't have an interest in doing that. That's not on our agenda. We want to do something different. I'm going to talk about those individuals. I'm going to give you their names. I'm going to give you their titles. I'm going to give you their backgrounds as lobbyists and how they never should have been hired in the first place.
And some of them are still there.
Well, John, look, the place is riddled with people who I still believe, and it's gotten much better, don't fully support the president's agenda. There are people that support the president's agenda, many of them. But what happens is when you get inside that bureaucracy, time and policy and committees are your friend. They slow things down. Look, we've seen this now so many times. We've seen it with the tariffs that the president has wanted to implement. We've seen it, with so many different things where he wants to be fighting for America first, to put Americans first.
Mm-hmm.
And the unelected staffers are slowing his agenda down, and they need to be called out for that.
So let me ask you this, Corey, straight out. How did this happen? I mean, what's the genesis of the number of people? Everybody understands the deep state. They were there, okay? So you kind of inherit them. They don't like the president's agenda. They try through the agencies and the bureaucracy to undermine everything he does, but they're already there. The number of people that got hired after the president got elected went to the West Wing in various capacities that worked as against his agenda. Somebody had to hire those people. How the hell did that happen?
Well, John, I've been very critical of this component of the administration, which is the administration was not ready to go on day one. The transition was not done in a manner that was vetting people who were on the president's team. And John, you know this. The campaign was very lean.
Yep.
It was small.
Yep.
So we didn't have thousands of individuals who we had to, quote-unquote, reward with patronage jobs, right? Those people that needed jobs were by and large taken care of. And then the people who came in to stand up the government on behalf of the administration made some very bad decisions. They brought people in who were part of previous administrations, whether it was the George H.W. Bush administration, the George W. Bush administration, or others, because they had, quote, Washington, D.C. experience. Because, you know, I think of guys like Elliott Abram, who was so nasty to Donald Trump during the campaign, so he was completely unqualified. And then we come to find out that he was applying to be the number 2 person at the State Department, and the only reason that job didn't go to him is because somebody actually did a cursory background check and saw all of the terrible things that were said. But the fact that he was being considered alone tells me that we weren't ready to go. And the team has gotten much better at vetting those individuals, but so many people have slid through the cracks. Omarosa clearly one of those people, but so many more, John. People who the average person has never heard of, that they hold enormous influence in policy-making decisions and that fundamentally disagree with this president's agenda are going to be named in our next book.
I tell you what, I can't wait till it comes out because it's going to be a blockbuster, no doubt. But the other thing is going to shake up Washington, and you're going to have a lot of arrows pointed at you. Could we ever see a time where Corey Lewandowski is inside the West Wing, getting people around the president maybe for the second part of his first term that can actually get things done, Corey?
Well, John, I got to tell you, I never thought in my life I would ever have the opportunity to call myself this, but I think I'm officially an author now. That's what I do for a living. I write books, right? I don't know, but I'll tell you, John, my goal through the Pence Great America Committee and for everything I do is helping keep the majorities of the House and the Senate in the November election, but more importantly, focusing on the president's reelection effort. And I want to do that in any capacity and in every capacity I can. And if that means there is the right role inside the White House at the right time, doing the right thing with the right responsibilities, then I would look at that. But I can tell you, being an outside advocate, I have much more freedom. I don't have to live in the swamp, thank God. I can come and go as I please. I can go on television and talk about all the great things that this president has been able to accomplish without the scrutiny of being a government employee. And look, John, I get a lot of scrutiny, and I've got broad shoulders. And when this book comes out, there's going to be people who are going to criticize me. But what they will not be able to do, which they have done with almost every other book that has come out, is to say that what I said in the book was inaccurate. Mm-hmm. There are no inaccuracies of my previous book. I didn't claim that Michael Steele, the former Republican National Committee chairman, wrote the dossier, as others have done. You know, there is no question that when my book comes out, it's going to be factually based, it's going to be true, and I will be immune to the scrutiny because the people who are going to read it are going to know that what I'm telling is the truth.
The truth, Corey, will set you free, no doubt, and I appreciate that. We're with Corey Lewandowski, former campaign manager for the Trump for President campaign. He's now a senior advisor to the Great American Committee. You can get more information. Go to greatamericacommittee.com. That is the hard money pack of the vice president. Corey, I got a minute and a half. Final thing I want to get your comment on. Gallup poll out yesterday. 57% of Democrats view socialism in a favorable way. Both you and I grew up in kind of Democratic strongholds, big union areas, the hard scrapple. I tell you, my father would turn over in his grave if he saw this because it's crazy. I mean, what's going on?
John, you know what it is? People don't understand what it really means anymore. You know, it's a word that people often forget. They use it inappropriately. They don't understand that we're the greatest country in the world, and the reason we're the greatest country in the world is because people have opportunities. People have opportunities to go from poor to rich in one generation or less in this country. You can't do that anywhere else. And if you look at what we've been able to do as a country in the very short period of time that we've been in existence, no other country in the history of the world has been able to do it. And socialism has failed time and time again. So what I would encourage people to do is to really look and see what that means and understand, do you want to take everything that other people have earned before you and redistribute that to everybody so you think it's fair? Because what happens if, God forbid, you work hard, you make money, you have opportunities that you never thought existed? John, I never thought growing up in Lowell, Massachusetts, in a little house with, my mom, I'd ever have the privilege of going into the Oval Office and seeing the President of the United States. That's what this country has provided me and provided for my family. You can't do that under a socialism regime, and people don't understand what it really means. So I would encourage people, go back and look at your history and understand just how fortunate we are to live in the greatest country in the world. And this is the best form of democracy, and this is the best form of government. And if we lose it, there is nowhere else to go to get it back.
John Fredericks Radio Network. We're out of time. I want to thank Corey Lewandowski for being with us. Corey, always a pleasure to have you on at the Corey Lewandowski Embassy, where I do my show in Washington, D.C. Thank you for that. By his book, Let Trump Be Trump. Also, Corey, thanks for giving, it just reminded me, thanks for giving me the unique opportunity you did in the Trump campaign. I would never have had it in any other situation. Thank you.
Well, John, you're a star, and thank you.